So, we're going to do a reaction video today to a podcast with Mustafa Barghouti as the guest. And Mustafa Barghouti is an Arab man, Palestinian, born in Jerusalem in 1954. He's a doctor, a medical doctor, and he co founded the Palestinian Medical Relief Society, which provides medical services to Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. And he has also served in the Palestinian Legislative Council since 2006. So he's been on the internet many times. He's been interviewed by all kinds of media sources, Al Jazeera, CNN, etc. And the podcast's theme that we're going to do a reaction video to is that Israel is, you know, losing its dominance, its hegemony, so to speak. So we're going to react to some key points of the episode, and I look forward to your feedback in the comments. Of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Like the video, leave your comments. For all of your real estate needs in South Florida, make sure to follow me at Rafi the Realtor. And it would mean the world to me if you were to support the channel via the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. Let's get to it.
If that happened in India, you would be talking about 176 million people killed or injured in the course of 2 years. So imagine that 90% of the people were displaced. And more than 90% of structures and houses and buildings and hospitals and clinics were completely destroyed. That's the level of atrocity we are facing. It's a terrible crime. Even in the Second World War, we never reached that level of destruction anywhere. And that's why I think the world owes us not only an apology, but they owe us the duty of interfering immediately to stop this terrible massacre and this terrible genocide.
The world doesn't owe you a damn thing. The world doesn't owe anybody anything. The reality is humans are intelligent animals, and we all have our reasoning for doing all the things we do. And you could empathize with the Palestinians, you could empathize with the Israelis. People choose sides. Each has their own reason for survival. Each has their own reason for war. But what the Palestinians have been doing to achieve their goals hasn't been working very well. What's sad is that Israel, unfortunately, has been giving the Palestinians every right to believe that violent resistance is more productive than what Mustafa Barghouti pushed for and continues to push for, which is a nonviolent resistance. That, which is a smarter decision, by the way, for the Palestinians. It is a smarter move, but what Israel would do is when Palestinians are violent, they would try to give land away. They would offer Gaza. They offered the West Bank and Gaza through Oslo. There were all sorts of concessions Israel was willing to make. None of this makes a difference, like I've said over and over and over again. I want to make it very clear. There isn't going to be any peace unless there is one state. There won't be peace if there's a Palestinian state, because to no surprise, there isn't a single democratic Muslim country on planet Earth, and a Palestine isn't suddenly going to become one. So the only reason, not the only reason, but the only way we're going to have peace between the two groups after all the mistrust, all the death, and all the killing is if we have one democratic state, which is Israel, which currently exists and currently gives Israeli Arabs, aka Palestinian Arabs, citizenship. The Gazans and West Bank Palestinians need to cooperate, as tough as it's going to be, and then we can at the very least, grant them residency.
You mentioned the lack of law and the lack of accountability. Now, there's been a big war that's kind of wrapping up. I don't think it's wrapped up forever, but it's wrapped up for now. The regional war, which Israel to a large extent dragged the US into with Iran. And there seems to be noise about the fact that this has strategically harmed Israel. It's also not severed, but it's probably hurt in a very superficial way Netanyahu's relationship with Trump. And it's, Iran has strategically, at least in my analysis, seems to have come out stronger, even though they have suffered a lot of, infrastructure and human damage. There's also an argument to be made that it's brought Arab countries sort of more aligned together. I mean, that in addition to the genocide in Gaza, in the fact that even if they are still dealing with Israel, even under the table, they are a lot more mistrustful of Israel, right? It's clear that humanitarian law, as you mentioned, or international law isn't going to bring something to kill. Maybe geopolitics can. Do you think that's just wishful thinking on my part?
No, on the contrary. Today I wrote on my X, they call it X now,
Twitter, yeah.
that the biggest loser of this Iranian-American agreement is Netanyahu. And this is very strategic, by the way. And I think this will have a positive impact on the situation in Palestine. Why? Because Israel did not want only to take over Palestine. And I repeat, the Zionist movement, which Netanyahu is the representative of, and his fascist crowd, including Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, were working on two things. And by the way, before the 7th of October, in September 2023, Netanyahu appeared in the General Assembly of the UN and bluntly said two things. First of all, that he showed the map of Israel that included the annexation of all West Bank and Gaza and Golan Heights. And then he spoke about changing the map of the Middle East. So that I think the Israeli Zionist movement thought they are now able to achieve two goals. One is the total, complete imperial domination of the Middle East, to become the imperial power that dominates the Middle East, economically, security-wise, military-wise, etc., etc. And that fit very well with the American new security doctrine, which practically said that they will outsource the control to some other forces in the region, given that they don't need the oil, but they don't want the oil to fall in the hands of anybody. So the Israel was there to be the imperialist power, the God that will do that and serve Israel's supreme dreams of becoming the imperial power that controls the Middle East. This is not new. If you go back to 1989, I think, or 1990, I think that's the year, you will find a very important study that was published by a pro-Israeli, pro-AIPAC institute in Washington, the title of which was The Dual Containment of Iraq and Iran. Why? Because these were two powers that are an obstacle to Israeli complete domination. And Syria, of course, was one. Not that they were, and they were the ones who encouraged the occupation of Iraq and destruction of Iraq under false, of course, claims. But they were done with Iraq, and now they wanted to eliminate Iran. Yesterday, I read or I listened to a statement by Hillary Clinton, who kept saying that since she was in power, the only thing that Netanyahu kept talking about, and Ehud Barak was talking about, is destroying Iran, destroying Iran, destroying Iran, and etc., etc. And normalization with the Arab countries. Normalization with the Arab countries, which was on the agenda of Trump in the first period, was about eliminating the Palestinian issue. So Israel had two goals. One goal is to become the imperial power that controls the region, and the second one is to normalize with Arab countries so that the Palestinian issue will be eliminated and killed. Now Netanyahu has failed. Iran was not broken. Iran is standing against all the wishes of Netanyahu. Now we cannot say that he is free to act and become the imperial power in the region. So this agreement means a lot in terms of the failure of Israel of achieving, because the main goal of the war was not oil, was not, don't believe them when they speak about disarming Iran and not allowing Iran to have nuclear power. Iran in the first place did not want to have nuclear power. And the aim was not to open Hormuz enclave, because it was open anyhow before. There was no need for that because it was open. Their goal was to bring down the regime.
Right. So as far as Iran goes, the bringing down of the regime was absolutely the most important part. And Iran claiming that they're not interested in nuclear weapons is meaningless. You can say you don't want nuclear weapons until you're blue in the face. But if you're chanting death to America and you're making it part of the school curriculum, you'd be pretty dumb as an Israeli, and of course the Israeli government, to believe that they don't mean what they say. I think a lot of the issue is that in the West, people choose to not take people at their word, and that's a massive mistake, and we do this all the time.
It's now the main goal, because at the end of the day, Israel has occupied us with its military power. For the Zionist movement to succeed, they need two factors: to occupy the land by force, which they did, but then to ethnically cleanse us. Without ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, they will not succeed. Today, there are 7.3 million Palestinians living on the land of historic Palestine versus 7.1 Jewish Israelis. They're going mad about this, especially in the light of the fact that last year, for instance, according to Ehud Barak, 80,000 Israelis left Israel. For the first time since 1948, the immigration balance is negative in Israel, minus 37,000. So for them, the only solution is ethnic cleansing of Gaza and the ethnic cleansing of the West Bank, and they're trying to do it. That's why now the most important national, patriotic goal of Palestinian people is to stay in Palestine. And every Palestinian, wherever they live, in London, in Britain, in US, in Germany, in Jordan, in Syria, wherever they live, the duty of every Palestinian worldwide now is to support the steadfastness of the Palestinians in the West Bank, Gaza, and in 1948 areas. In every possible way, whether they support their brothers or their family, whether they support our healthcare or education or whatever, they have a duty. This is their way of resistance, of participating in the Palestinian struggle. But that alone is not enough. That will consolidate our presence, but to change the balance of power, we need an additional thing, which is boycott, divestment, sanctions, imposing sanctions on Israel to change the whole balance of power, which is skewed in their interest. These two factors, in my opinion, are the most important strategic two components that Palestinians should stick to.
So I think what's interesting here is that would that actually allow for a safer Israel if all of the West Bank Palestinians and Gazan Palestinians left? Yes, it would. Is that a reality? I don't know how doable that's going to be. I wouldn't want that to be the case if we didn't need to. But is that something that two warring nations have practiced from the beginning of time? Yes. Two warring nations fighting over land would either expel the other or completely annihilate the other. That is what typically happened. That's why the Jews were driven out of the land in the first place. The challenge here is that Barghouti does not share the majority view of the Palestinian people. The Palestinians, for the most part, believe in a much more violent resistance, and their basis of having the land is due to religious belief. So if every single Palestinian believed the way he does now, I don't know exactly what he believes. And I'm very skeptical about his beliefs because I don't think the guy wants to have an Israeli state anywhere on this land. I don't buy it for a second. But if, let's say, realistically, both sides genuinely believed in the idea of two states, that would be a discussion. If that's what it took to actually bring peace, that would be a discussion. But we know good and well that wouldn't bring peace. And so this whole idea of Israel just allowing Gaza and the West Bank Palestinians to live as they have been and continue to plan attacks is not a way. You can't do things that way. So that's why, again, and I say this is my major point. There needs to be one full state, full stop. It's the only way forward. But it's challenging because now we have, if he's correct, which makes sense, we have either just as many Palestinians as Jews or more. So yeah, it's a challenge. There's no question about it. Ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed this reaction to the video. I would actually really like to talk to this Barghouti guy. It'd be interesting to really understand him, get to know him, pick his brain, and because at the very least, he condemned October 7th. I definitely don't see him as a friend. Like, I have a very hard time trusting any of these figures, but I also do believe in dialogue. I do believe that's important. Ladies and gents, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave your comments, like the video. For all of your real estate needs in South Florida, make sure to follow me at Rafi the Realtor. And to support the channel, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link. And I hope to have you tune into the next video. Peace out.